Our approach here at Quantic Dream regarding interactive storytelling is we try to create stories that emulates life. And that's a big statement, that's very ambitious to say, how can we, in a video game, an interactive experience, how can we emulate the complexity of life? And that's really a question we started asking ourselves like 24 years ago, and we try to find solutions. You can see some of them in Detroit Become Human. Of course, we never failed to achieve this goal, we just try to go in that direction, but that's a long road and probably will never exactly make it, but it's our ambition. Very often I get this question, do you start with a story first or with a gameplay first? And the right answer is basically you need to design both at the same time. You really need to think the story that can be played, and to have an idea for the role and the interactivity you want for the player that will allow him or her to tell their own story. And that's something very particular. It's a very special exercise as a writer. It's a new way of thinking. But it's very interesting to imagine a story where players will have a place, they will have room to express themselves. That's the most important thing. Because what we want to do, end of the day, is to tell a story not for the player, but with the player. And that makes a huge difference. You don't want to create a story that you will just show and that the player will passively watch. You want them to tell their own story through gameplay. And that's one of the most important things. Gameplay becomes the pen that players will use in order to write their own story. All branches must be equally good and meaningful. That's a real challenge. You saw the complexity of the tree structure. You don't want one path to be very exciting and fun and another one to be just boring. You want all of them to be equally good and meaningful. And believe me, that's a real challenge when you really want a complex tree structure. Another question I often have is storytelling versus interactivity. Oh, you cannot tell a story that is really playable and you cannot have real gameplay if you want a story. I think it's a mistake to oppose these two things. Actually, I tend to believe that you can have both. You can have a story that is fully playable, where you actually make interesting decisions, but at the same time you are physically involved in what happens. And we try to go in this direction game after game at Quantic Dream, and we get closer and closer to this. But actually, if you play Detroit Become Human, there are very few cutscenes. Most of the time the player is in control, and it's through gameplay that he tells his story. And that's probably the most important thing for us, because players must play their story. They're here to do something, not to watch it passively. And we try to have less and less cutscenes, which means moments where the players will lose control of their character. We try really to limit this and really let players tell their own story through interactivity. We try to make everything playable, and that's really a challenge sometimes, because we often ask ourselves, is it important for the character to switch on and off the lights in a room, or is it important for the character to decide what he wants to say in a dialogue? Is it, all these questions we ask ourselves all the time, and each time we can make an action playable, each time we can give a room to players, we gladly do it.